Hey everybody, this is the Shredded Scholar, sitting here in my garden on this tiny blue marble, hurtling through space, trying to keep focused on the things that are important. And here's one, a story about a proposed golf course development from St. Helena Island in Beaufort County in extreme southern South Carolina on the border with Georgia. It's hard for me to explain in a short video how important St. Helena Island and Beaufort County in general are in the history of South Carolina and of the United States. St. Helena Island is one of the great cultural, economic, political strongholds of the Gullah-Geechee people, who, because of historical circumstances and the geography of the area, were able to retain more African culture than any other black population in what would become the United States. This was, in the colonial and antebellum period, an area of rice plantations, and the demands of that particular agricultural regime and the geographic circumstances mean that the Gullah-Geechee people of coastal South Carolina and Georgia, a little bit of North Carolina, a little bit of Florida, are the most African of all Americans. St. Helena Island, Beaufort County, is where Reconstruction started. Even before the Civil War was over, this was the place, because the Union attacked and conquered this little portion of South Carolina very early in the Civil War. This was the place that black and white Americans had the first chance to start to negotiate and try and figure out what might a biracial, democratic America look like. They were central in the civil rights movement. There's so much that I can say about St. Helena Island, about Penn Center, which was the first, or among the very first, of schools for freed people, founded during the Civil War, which is still there as a great cultural institution. The brick church that's right there on the Penn Center. There's so much to say. This also comes up in my research and my work about the Baha'i faith in South Carolina because of the intimate associations there. It's too much in a short video. One other thing that I need to say, just to explain the significance, is that once the people of St. Helena Island had finished fighting the Civil War, putting down the slaveholders' rebellion, they came home to the island and bought land and built businesses, fed themselves and their community off the land and the water. They became prosperous farmers on their own terms. They have a tradition of collective economic empowerment. They built churches and schools. They educated their children. They ran for office. They voted. They served in the South Carolina State House and in the Congress of the United States. Gullah-Geechee people have been at the forefront of trying to make America into a democracy. They have an ethic of community stewardship of the natural environment that all Americans need to learn from. If we are to learn how to not cook ourselves and destroy this planet for all of our descendants, then so much of the cultural and political and economic and ecological values of the Gullah-Geechee people that they have had to hone over decades and centuries is skills and insights that we need to acquire and that all Americans need to practice. So it is in this context that a 35-year-old business person who, I kid you not, I mean, if you were going to write this as a film, you would have to tone this down, who moved from New York a few years ago. And please don't get me wrong, man, I love New York. I'm happy for people to move to South Carolina, but if you do, you cannot act like this. The guy bought 500 acres of pristine land on St. Helena Island with the assumption, for some reason, that county council would waive a cultural overlay ordinance that bans golf courses and gated communities, the kind that have overtaken so many other areas of historic Gullah-Geechee land in South Carolina and Georgia. Hilton Head, Defusky. All right, I'll leave it at that. For some reason, he thought that this ordinance was going to be waived for him. I don't know why he thought that. I think it's an important question to ask. Who told him that might happen? Yeah. At any rate, once the people found out that that's what he had in mind, an 18-hole golf course, the hue and cry was immediate. Remember, these are the people who put down the slaveholders' rebellion. Maybe he hadn't read about that. Maybe he hadn't read Willie Lee Rowe's Rehearsal for Reconstruction. Maybe he hadn't read Stephen Hahn, A Nation Under Our Feet. Maybe he hadn't watched just look it up. The South Carolina ETV production from 1990, Family Across the Sea. Everybody needs, he probably had not been to the Reconstruction era National Park. Okay. But now he knows that this is not the way this is going to go down. So county council, their spine got stiffened by the people, and they said, no, can't do it. He said, well, how about instead of one 18-hole golf course, what would you say to 3 6-hole golf courses? Turns out the people said, oh, hell no to that too, right? He's suing the county. He's suing the county. He says, if he can't build anything, he can't build golf courses, then he'll have to make good on his investment and build 160 luxury homes. And you know what? The folk on the island are saying, no, you're not going to do that either. Because we already put this ordinance in place just for this purpose, right? The story this morning that had me arrested, I dropped off my kid at school and came home and couldn't get out of the truck until I was done with the story. They quoted, he's interviewed for the story. And he said, I'm doing this in order to bring recognition to the Gullah-Geechee community and to bring money to the Gullah-Geechee community. And I think that's the part that had my jaw dropped, right? If you are interested in economic empowerment of the local community, this is a hot take for him, for anybody. You consult with the community first before you buy the 500 acres. You should not be surprised that the local people's idea of economic development simply does not include cooking for rich golfers at the country club and cutting the grass and cleaning the toilets and having the runoff from that golf course, all those chemicals, run into the water where they fish. And no, there is no such thing as an environmentally friendly golf course anywhere on the face of God's green earth. I am so proud of the local people on St. Helena and of all the organizations, including Preservation South Carolina, on whose board I serve, the Coastal Conservation League. I mean, I'm so proud of the journalists that have done good work bringing attention to this story. I am so proud of Beaufort County Council for standing up and upholding this ordinance. And I just want to encourage all of these folks to continue this fight. This is a small local battle, just like the ancestors of St. Helena Island people fought more than 150 years ago about what kind of country we're going to be. let's make the right choice.